Welcome back to Good Morning Football. Peter and Kyle and Nate and Kay and Will Silva all back live ahead of the Combine. It's Combine week, baby. Will, take it away.
Yes, it is. All right. Thank you, Kay. Guys, great to see you guys back there at the breakfast table, and we've got plenty of news for you, starting with Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, who is doing something he hasn't been able to do since September. Roethlisberger is actually throwing a football. Now, Pittsburgh's Twitter account posting a 5-second clip as proof, a monumental step in his recovery from a season-ending elbow injury. Doctors clearing him to throw last Friday. Big Ben calling it amazing to throw. He says it was hard to hold the smile in. He says he would have more throwing sessions in California before heading to Pittsburgh. Now, we know the Raiders are heading to Las Vegas this season. They won't play their first game there until September, but we now know when they'll have their first practice in their new home. The team says it will hold their June minicamp in Vegas, and it may be open to the public. Head coach John Gruden saying, quote, "If we can let everyone in, we will. Look out the strip." Meanwhile, Ravens defense coordinator Don Wink Martindale is staying put, and he'll be paid handsomely to do so. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reporting Martindale is the highest paid DC in the NFL after inking a 3-year extension. He was the team's longtime linebackers coach before being promoted to coordinator in 2018. Also staying put is Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy after withdrawing his name from the head coaching search at his alma mater, the University of Colorado, and left the door open for Dolphins assistant head coach Carl Jarrell to take the job. He was literally just promoted from Dolphins receivers coach to assistant head coach, and now he takes over for the Buffs there in Boulder. Being out here in Pac-12 country, there's a lot of people that actually were shrugging their shoulders at the hire, but either way, Jarrell now takes over at CU while Bieniemy remains in KC.
Sounds like a good place for some big deal or no big deal. Will, we appreciate you. Bieniemy not returning to his alma mater. That was the talk before we went on our week-long hiatus here. Nate, you've been really outspoken about Bieniemy's credentials and what you'd like to see for him in the future.
No doubt.
Big deal or no big deal that he took himself out of consideration for the Colorado job.
This is a big deal because you know what he stands for. You know, this is no slight to Colorado, but they're not going to win a national title anytime soon. So if you think about what's at stake if he takes that job versus stay in the NFL and possibly gets a head coaching job, would you rather win a bowl game in college or win a Super Bowl, a Lombardi trophy in the NFL? I think Eric Bieniemy is betting on himself, saying, you know what, I'm going to stick around the league and give myself an opportunity to win a Lombardi and prove that I could be an NFL head coach and not just a college head coach.
Big deal, and I'm going to take it from the Chiefs' standpoint. Huge deal to have Eric Bieniemy back in the saddle. This is a team that just won a Super Bowl, and now you bring back not only your offensive coordinator, but you bring back your defensive coordinator, you bring back your special teams coach. You also bring back much of that offense. They're not losing too much talent on the offensive side of the ball, so huge deal when you have a Super Bowl champion that loses nothing in their most productive side of the field. I also would say this. Ron Rivera started interviewing for head coaching jobs in 2007. Interviewed for the Cowboys job, the Steelers job, the Cardinals job, the Falcons job, the Dolphins job, before finally getting that job in Carolina. My word to Eric Bieniemy, this is not the end of the road for the NFL. I'm okay with you not taking the Colorado job, withdrawing yourself, because if your dream is to be an NFL head coach, it will happen. Keep on doing what you're doing. It will happen, and it happened for Ron Rivera. He's been coach of the year twice since.
Same take with the Niners. They didn't lose Robert Saleh. They didn't get fleeced. Both those guys. I'm going to say a big deal. And can we just take one hot second? I heard Will mention the Buffs. To respect Eric Bieniemy in his heyday as a Colorado Buff, this guy was an incredible player. Look at him.
My goodness.
This is late 80s.
Tell me about it.
Jersey tucked up under to show his abs. A lightning quick running. This is against Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl, which was like the de facto title game. Prolific player for those Bill McCartney Buffs teams.
That's not a dive over. That's
no.
a hurdle.
He's elevating right there. I loved Bieniemy in college.
They brought back that Rocket Ismail kick return in that game.
Terrible call.
Terrible call.
Terrible. Terrible. Peter, you're right into my 9-year-old childhood.
Really?
Whoa.
He finished third in Heisman Trophy voting.
Fantastic player. And this is why it's a big deal. Because I know Colorado's not a robust program right now. Never underestimate a guy going to his alma mater. It is always the life goal, the dream job. He said no to stay with Big Red, and it's huge. That holding penalty was terrible. It's a clip.
Back to the Combine. Many expect Joe Burrow to go first overall, but win that second quarterback might come off the board is definitely up for debate. There's two teams that figure to be looking for a young signal caller, the Dolphins and the Chargers. Big deal or no big deal, Schrags? Miami being slotted to pick one spot ahead of Los Angeles.
Big deal, because I'm looking at both these teams, whether it be Fitzpatrick or Tyrod Taylor as the incumbents as quarterbacks. I would have to think that they're looking youth. And if you're the Dolphins, you not only have your own first-round pick, you've got multiple other ones because of trades you've made, including the Minkah Fitzpatrick deal. But the Chargers are opening a stadium. The Chargers need something. Are you really going to open the stadium and say, here we are, the LA Chargers that really have no real footprint at the moment, and we're doing it with Tyrod? Or do you want to say, we got Tua, and here's our future? I'm fascinated to see what the Chargers and Dolphins do as far as jockeying for picks. 5 and 6 in the draft, and from everything you're hearing, numbers 2, the Redskins, 3, the Lions, and 4, the Giants aren't looking at quarterback at the moment. I think big deal.
Tua's the footprint. That is when I carried you. All right, I'm going to say no big deal, only by comparison, because when it becomes a big deal is when you also have Oakland at 12, Indy at 13, and Tampa at 14. I think Daniel Jeremiah is calling it like trade corner or something, like quarterback corner. So the combination of the ones you mentioned and those other 3 doing something nuts. You want a footprint, Vegas? How about Vegas? I mean, the Raiders doing something crazy. All those combined are a big deal. I think there's 5 in the top 14 that could do something nuts.
Yeah, I'm going with no big deal because I feel like the writing is on the wall or the footprints are in the sand when it comes to Miami Dolphins. I think Tua will be a Miami Dolphin. And when it comes to Tyrod Taylor, they wouldn't go get Tua because you just said it. Tua's about 6 foot. If you're really giving him some inches, he's the same type of quarterback as Tyrod Taylor, just left-handed. So I don't think they would draft a guy that reminds them of who they said can win them games. They've already come out and said Tyrod is our quarterback. So I feel like Tyrod is going to be the bridge for another year or so until they figure out who they really want.
Schrager, I'd like to think that we are a progressive league, right? Ever evolving, ever improving. They've made changes to the combine. Are we at a point in our ecosystem of the NFL where we stop talking about undersized quarterbacks or stop criticizing and nitpicking them?
We'll find something
Kyler
else,
Murray,
right?
last year, was he the final nail in the coffin to dispel that, or is it still going to be nitpicked about Tua all offseason?
I think it'll be nitpicked, and I also think there are 2 6'6" quarterbacks in this draft, and Eason and Herbert, that they're going to say, what? You'll watch. Because Tua's not going to be able to do anything physically at the combine. Herbert's going to put on a show. Eason's those guys might jump Tua in a lot of these mock drafts because they're 6'6", 230 pounds, and they look like great guys.
Apart. 2 straight years, the number 1 overall pick has been a short quarterback.
Baker had a great first year, so that's what I'm saying. So why are we still nitpicking that? I guess it's because it's tied to his injury history.
Because the jury is still out on Kyler Murray, and Baker Mayfield had a really good rookie season.
Offensive Rookie of the Year!
But the jury is still out.
Okay.
I mean, and when it comes to Baker Mayfield, really good rookie year. What happened this season?
Drew Brees, Russell Wilson. Like, when is this going to stop?
The same guys who have been worried about being short quarterbacks all these times in the personnel department are still the same guys picking these quarterbacks.
I want to know if they have the clutch gene. That's what I'm.
That's another one.
Clutch gene is big. That's the new story. Yeah, I don't know. Find out.
Like, let's get over it. You know.
I think
if it wasn't attached to a laundry list of injuries, that wouldn't be as big of a deal.
Well, 2 questions. I want to know if this is the beginning of Joe Burrow lighting another one of those cigars in Vegas for the draft when he's the number 1 pick. I want to know. I've seen a lot of the word presumptive attached to him. He said it a lot this year, and there seems to be the second he finished that title game and played the perfect game that he's the guy. He's the number 1 pick. And yet the 4 of us have been through a lot of drafts. We've seen a lot of things, and we know that nothing is a wrap. I want to call your attention. A couple of years ago, Sam Darnold was the Joe Burrow. He was the guy who was going to go number 1.
Yeah.
This is a picture we showed a lot that year. That is Jimmy Haslam on the right, the owner of the Browns, who had the number 1 pick at Sam Darnold's workout with his family, Mike and Chris Darnold. And we said, that's it. That right there is the picture they show. Sure enough, they ended up taking Baker Mayfield. We got completely got. I want to know if he's going to be the guy. And the second question is, does Joe Burrow want to be the guy in Cincinnati? There's a lot of chatter about the word leverage, a report that he said, I have it, the idea that he could pull an Eli Manning. I will say this about Baker Mayfield. He embraced Cleveland. He was very open about 1-31. I don't care. I want to be there. I want to play in Cleveland. I want to save that fan base. Joe Burrow's not done that. He says, I'm a football player. I want to go where I'm called. When he shows up to Indianapolis, he's going to be asked a lot about Cincinnati, the Bengals, the organization, the playoff drought. Does he want part of it, and is he willing to admit that? Those are my questions.
How should he answer those questions?
I think he said, I want to go number 1. I'm the number 1 pick, and if Cincinnati has it, I want to be the guy. That's how I would do it.
Now, the fuel to the fire is there's the connections here. So Carson Palmer came out last week, or when he was at the Super Bowl, and said, that organization is not looking to win a Super Bowl. And he was a former number 1 pick. Carson Palmer's brother, Jordan Palmer, is working with Joe Burrow. So if Carson Palmer's saying that about the Bengals, and you want to tie it in, well, Joe Burrow's listening to Jordan Palmer as he's working out, there is fuel to the fire there. But to me, it's like, if you're the Bengals, I don't care about all that. I'm taking Joe Burrow.
Draft right through it.
let him figure that out himself if he wants to really be that guy. To me, I'm fascinated by Tua. I think Tua is a different type of quarterback prospect that we've had in this draft. He's not the biggest physical build. I mean, we're talking 6 feet, 200 pounds, and the injury history is just too hard to ignore.